everyone. How's the conference going? Good. This is your first Coalesce. Let's get a hand raised. Oh, cool. Majority of folks. That's great. This is my second personally. I'm very excited to have it in San Diego this time. It's a quick trip down from San Francisco in a beautiful area. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about how Brandon's team at Red Ventures actually creates this playbook on how they can use DBT and Hightouch and sort of the modern data stack across all of their different client properties, like different websites they manage for their clients, as well as all the portfolio brands that sit under Red Ventures. So companies like CNET and Healthline and The Points Guys. For anyone who doesn't know, there's about 100 brands under the Red Ventures portfolio. And yeah, really excited to chat through this today. So we'll start off with some intros. Brandon, I'll let you go first.
Sure. Thanks, Tejas. So I'm Brandon Beidel. I'm a director of data engineering at Red Ventures, focusing, like Tejas said, exclusively on our kind of externally facing marketing agency business.
And I'm Tejas, one of the founders of a startup called Hightouch, which is employed at Red Ventures. Yeah. Cool. So in terms of the agenda today, we will be first just going over an overview of what Red Ventures does as a company, as well as Hightouch, so that you can kind of put everything into context. Then we'll actually be chatting about how Brandon and his team that leads data engineering at Red Ventures has actually created a central analytics function and really created trustworthy data models that the rest of the business can rely on with DBT. Then what I'm really excited about is for Brandon to be able to share how Red Ventures is actually going beyond the typical use case of data warehouses and DBT, which is obviously powering analytics and BI and kind of business strategy type functions. And instead, they're actually using the data warehouse as the hub that's going to power marketing use cases and personalization, optimizing digital advertising, stuff like that. Lastly, the fun part, Brandon will talk about how he uses capabilities like DBT's macros, as well as other features of DBT to actually create a playbook that can be rolled out across all the different brands in the Red Ventures portfolio. And last but not least, I'll quickly talk about a new capability that we came out with today that hopefully we can show off more after the talk. Cool. So I'll keep my section quick and hand it over to Brandon. So I'm Tejas, one of the founders of a company called Hightouch. We've been really in this modern data stack space for the last 4 years. At a very high level, what Hightouch does is help companies activate data from the data warehouse. So as I mentioned earlier, everyone knows the typical use cases of data warehousing, doing analytics, business intelligence, reporting. What our premise is that the data products that data teams, like everyone's data team here, is building inside of data warehouses like Snowflake, Databricks, BigQuery, is just so much more valuable if it can actually also be used for operational use cases. So when I say operational use cases, I would say 70% of our use cases are things like powering marketing and advertising and these kind of growth functions of businesses. The core product, reverse ETL, basically allows you to easily take data from the warehouse and sync it into systems like Facebook ads, Google ads, Salesforce, Marketo, all those types of systems that you might use across your business. And we've kind of built a broader customer data platform directly on top of the data warehouse that can help with things like identity resolution or allowing marketers to build their own audiences or even getting missing data into the data warehouse in the first place. So I'll leave the rest to Brandon to dive into how they put this stuff into action at Red Ventures.
Thanks, Tejas. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Red Ventures may be a brand, maybe a company you've interacted with and not even realized it. It's a combination of a couple things, a series of branded assets in various industries, health, commerce, energy, finance, as well as the part of the business I focus on, which is a growth marketing agency. So we take the learnings and technology that we built to manage those brands you may have heard of, and ultimately bring those learnings to our clients to help them accelerate their marketing. And anything from on-site optimization to media optimization to cart workflows. It's really bringing the power of data and AI into making marketing functions making marketing function better. So at a very basic level, the purpose of our data team and how we work today is to take data from our customer experiences, their website, their cart flows, their marketing experiences, and our data team's responsibility is to model that in a warehouse dedicated to our client. So for every client, we have a separate warehouse. It could be Snowflake, could be BigQuery, could be Redshift. Doesn't matter. The client tells us where they want this data stored. So we take these streams of data, various sources, and aggregate them into a couple use cases. Behavioral data, what did the user do on site? Conversion, who converted, what do they spend, what do they purchase? Identity data, so trying to find all of those unique identifiers across the internet, stitching them together so that way we can better identify who we're interacting with and provide them the right experience. And really core to our business is that paid media performance data. So what did we spend on an ad, who interacted with it, what was the outcome, that sort of ongoing tracking so we can really optimize that engine that's deciding what dollars we want to spend and where. So our team aggregates all of those into various data warehouses. We model that with dbt, really leveraging the idea that it doesn't matter what compute a client gives us, we can bring the same logic. So layered on top of that standard reporting, we actually bring in standardized machine learning models as well. Answering questions like, is this user going to return to site? Are they going to purchase? How much are they going to spend? And ultimately, what do we think they're going to respond to in terms of content? So build these standard reporting models, build these standard out-of-the-box machine learning components, and then that's when it starts to get interesting because now you have all of this robust information that you've gathered for your marketers, and now they want to use it. So our marketers, let's say, they're very ambitious, and they want to integrate with every paid media platform out there. They want to spend on Google Ads, they want to spend on Taboola, they want to spend on the Trade Desk. The list is pretty considerable, and so that actually became quite a problem for our data teams. Doing that integration, finding every long tail integration to do that work really became a ball of mud for us. And we became the bottleneck in actually moving faster as a marketing team. So that's where Hightouch actually filled a really important niche for us. We separated our concerns and said, okay, data team, you're only responsible for producing those pristine assets. Here are the things, here are those reporting tables of those various primary concerns, and we're going to empower our marketers to say, here's a tool which you can then say, I want to take this information that is relevant to Google Ads, and I want to integrate with it. And I want to integrate with Trade Desk, and I want to integrate with Taboola, and allow them to take that action on their own in a governance-aware way, in a way that is safe and privacy-aware, such that our data team is no longer the bottleneck. So those marketing use cases really fell under two categories. One, which is sending conversion events. So the idea, for those of you who are not familiar with how these media platforms work, you typically have to send a conversion signal. You have to tell someone, I saw this user, they interacted, that's good, give me more of that. And then the other half is kind of audience segmentation. Here are a group of users. These users are either high value, low value, we want to spend more, we want to spend less, we want to see more of them, like groups of users you want to send to these platforms. So by aggregating our data into these predetermined composites or predetermined aggregates, our marketers can then use those as integrations into these downstream paid media channels and do their optimization without us having to get in the way. So digging in a little bit deeper into some of those use cases, by doing that modeling ourselves at a data team, we can focus in on giving them a little bit more robust of a perspective, especially on the integration side. So by modeling the data in our warehouse and then sending it to the paid media platform, we can actually stitch together more robust identities, allowing the Facebooks of the world and the Googles of the world to actually get a better match rate, to more readily identify that, yes, these are the users that are high value. If you don't send all those signals, those of you that have ever interacted with like a Google Ads API or Facebook Ads API know that if you don't have a lot of identifiers, your match rates are low, your campaigns may not perform as well, and ultimately, like you're gonna waste more money. So by having the paradigm of we model it in the warehouse, collect every signal we can, and then send that completed profile up to those paid media platforms, we actually get better monetary performance downstream. The other use case I wanted to talk through is actually around this idea of conversion windows. So the Googles, Facebooks, all these platforms, they typically have a constraint. After you've seen a user, you have a limited amount of time to say, yes, this user converted or no. In those events, that's fine if you are like doing talking about an app install or a SaaS sign up. Those are typically relatively quick consideration items. When you start talking about things like mortgages or car loans or like long considered purchases, very often the time when you actually convert is well outside that window. So we're missing out on that valuable feedback loop back to Google. So what we do is, based on those standardized machine learning models I talked about earlier, is we'll actually send the prediction instead of waiting for that final signal. So we have some fuel to add to the machine prior to that window closing, and we still get better performance. So all of these things are kind of starting to fit together to meet the constraints of our paid media platforms. And then by giving this directly to our marketers, they can move more quickly within the constraints of those systems. So all these things kind of put together have allowed us to create this sort of standardized playbook that allows us to scale across multiple channels. We can go from a team of 5 data engineers managing it to a team of 2 data engineers and 2 marketers who can freely go and integrate with wherever they need to integrate. So that's allowed us to scale across new paid media channels relatively quickly. As quickly as someone can go and sign up for a new account in a marketing platform, they can start experimenting. They don't need the data team's permission to do so. So what this sort of looks like tactically for us is we actually will build out dedicated packages for each of these primary domains. So we have a Google search package, a Facebook, Google Discovery, Trade Desk. So the stuff on the left is our paid media channels. Those are pretty standard. The stuff on the right, transactional, behavioral sort of things, tend to be a little more bespoke for our clients. But we really think about this as what is the primary domain? How can we produce a minimum viable, lowest common denominator asset that we can leverage multiple places and then allow our business-specific teams to layer on that customized reporting on top. So this is really the core to our strategy is find those core components, reuse them wherever we can, and then layer on this bespoke component on top. And again, this is sort of that visualization. By taking that strategy, we've allowed ourselves to scale, apply that dry principle, and keep our team moving across more relationships. Rather than just building it for one, we've now built logic that applies to every relationship we have. And as we come to learn something new about a platform, some nuance we weren't considering, great, update it, new semantic version, new major version release, push to prod, make sure it goes everywhere. And then all of a sudden, every client is now the beneficiary of that core learning. So getting into the tactics a little bit more, since this is a DBT conference, I think it's important to talk about some of the nuance here. Some of the challenges that we face, this has been a kind of long journey to get to this point of this standardized packages applied many places, is some lessons I wish we'd learned up front. One which is, if you think there's a chance you're going to need to apply logic across multiple warehouses, use cross-DB macros. Just force yourself into that habit. Don't wait until you have a use case. You should really make sure that we're dealing with the fact that these SQL dialects are just ever so slightly different, and you can spend days tracking down some of these issues. Also, I think around testing is a good mechanism that I think DBT really enables. What are some basic assertions that you want to make? What are the primary keys? What can be null? What can't? Just very, very basic assertions that you can put inside of your packages, which can save you a lot of headache downstream by making sure that you've asserted this is the quality of my inputs. Another sort of complication as a result of applying this across multiple client environments is naming conventions are different, locations are different. You might have the same structured data for 2 clients, but they're in different schemas, they're in different table names. So getting used to that idea of what is the right abstraction for the sources. So figuring out how do I apply a dynamic source by passing variable names, what makes sense to turn to a variable as a package, what needs to be hard-coded. It's those trade-offs of like what can I be assured of is going to be the configuration versus what is the flexibility I need to allow for. So these are some of the primary challenges we face in kind of going to this sort of package-based playbook. But ultimately, this was something we were able to kind of work through over the course of probably 12 to 18 months. So to summarize, by separating our concerns and having our data team focus on rebuilding those kind of reusable components, we're really able to allow a marketing team to move faster. You have your tools, you have everything available to you. Take those raw ingredients and make whatever recipe you want in those paid media channels. You want to start using the predicted conversion rate? Great, it's in this table. You can send it to Google anytime you like. You want to start using the return session prediction and send that to Facebook? Great, it's there, it's available, it's tested for you whenever you're ready. That coupled with some of the built-in capabilities that Hightouch enables for us by allowing us to do that modeling and then help those marketers move faster have really helped us scale in both directions over the number of media channels that we can support as well as the number of clients. So I'll turn it over to Tejas because I think he wants to talk about some of the exciting stuff coming out of Hightouch.
So thanks again, Brandon, for sharing how you all are using these technologies at Red Ventures. Just as a reminder, so where we fit in is basically helping companies take those data products and data models from the data warehouse and bringing them to all the downstream tools that you use across your company. So CRMs or ad networks or any of these operational systems through a process called reverse ETL. So it's kind of like the opposite of Fivetran or any of those ETL tools. So today we're launching a new technology that we released called Reverse ETL 2.0. Basically what it does is offer streaming capabilities in reverse ETL. So Snowflake has recently released a feature called Dynamic Tables, which is super, super exciting. Basically what it allows you to do is save almost a DAG of SQL queries directly into the data warehouse, like into Snowflake, so that as data comes in, this DAG of SQL queries is processed. It's kind of alike DBT in some ways. DBT has an integration of this feature actually. But basically what happens is that instead of running your whole series of SQL transformations on a schedule and running all these batch jobs on a schedule and doing full refreshes of tables oftentimes if you're not using something like DBT's incremental mode, which can be a little bit more work to do. What Dynamic Tables does is does some of that incremental processing automatically. So as new data is coming in, it kind of automatically funnels it through the series of SQL queries. So using that capability, we've actually unlocked people to be able to do reverse ETL off the data warehouse with latencies of as low as like 15 seconds or a few seconds for just like inserting into raw tables, as well as low as like 1 to 2 minutes for companies who are doing something like building a golden user model off the data warehouse. So we're really passionate that the data warehouse should be the source of truth across the business, and that it's much easier to have kind of one platform that you can use for analytics and activation and all that kind of jazz, instead of having random off-the-shelf tools that are trying to be the source of truth. So we're really, really excited about this new capability to unlock streaming and lower latency workloads off the data warehouse and supporting that here at Hightouch. So if anyone has questions about this or wants to check it out, just swing by our booth and be happy to show you more. Cool, thank you. Awesome, so we can do questions about anything that was covered or Red Ventures or Hightouch or anything. I'll go around and let people speak into the mic, but does anyone have questions? Cool. Maybe you can just shout.
Yeah, all the way in the back.
Yeah, thanks for the chat. That was very interesting. A lot of things you talk about we're going through as well. I work for a retail company. I was wondering, so actually I have two questions. One, you say, so you're not only doing the ETL or ELT and the modeling, but also you have the ML models. Could you tell us a bit more on like, do you build those ML models like yourself, like your own team, or what sort of technology you're using for ML model?
Yeah. So we, well, it depends. This goes back to depends on the warehouse you're on.
Right.
So what we typically do in those cases is we build a standard feature table to say, here is return session, yes, no. And so we have a standard row which represent that customer session and if they returned or not. Have those standard features created, and then whatever the AutoML tool typically is in that system, it could be in Databricks, it could be in Snowflake, it could be in BigQuery. Like we use that AutoML tool to generate a result and then kind of feed that back into the rest of our workflows. We do have some custom models which are embedding based, and that's for our more complex use cases. But typically what we do is we have a standard feature set that we create at the prediction, at the row level prediction we're looking for, and then feed that to whatever AutoML tool that happens to be on that platform.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm asking because we're on BigQuery, so I know I've actually kind of heard about it not long ago, but they have their own like retail API that has their own ML feature you can build. So I was just curious on that. My second question is when it comes to like marketing. All your use cases are around like user-based events.
Mm-hmm.
We know that with iOS 14 and there are like it's becoming much more challenge, right? User attribution.
Yep.
So we're exploring currently more like mixed media modeling. I'm wondering if that's also an area where you're focusing on, and curious if it's true, like if you're investigating that, like what's your approach?
It is an area of deep investigation. We are a couple things. Incrementality and mixed media modeling are kind of in this kind of large bucket of word soup that we end up dealing with for this. We'll do anything from matched market testing. If you haven't looked at it, Google has a nice repository that talks about how to set up geo-based holdouts. So you can use time series correlations to estimate an impact. There are some other tools that will actually do time series detection within an account to say, I changed this thing on this campaign, but I changed it universally across a geography. And you can kind of get some feedback there. So there are multiple methodologies we experimented with. Happy to talk about them in more detail. I can give you some links. But yeah, we are chewing on that same sort of like cliff that is coming.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Any other questions? Awesome. I'll be right there.
Thanks so much, guys. I really enjoyed the presentation. Just one quick question about the data that's coming in for kind of pre-processing. Now, I'm no marketing expert, but it seems like there might be very different structures from the different channels, i.e., heartbeats or time series data that's coming in. How much work is it to deduplicate or kind of get that to the right grain so that your models can run, or is that something that's part of the kind of playbook that you're
Part of that playbook. We identify a new source, say, okay, how can we ingest that data? How can we find that data? What is the most reliable way to get that on the cadence we need? Really working backwards from how often do we need to make a decision? If we're making a lot of paid media platforms now, you make daily decisions. You don't make hourly decisions anymore. The levers have been taken away in a lot of regards. So hourly decisions on Google, if you think you're doing that, you think you're doing a good job, like I'd love to talk to you and hear about that. But we then look backwards, okay, how do we get daily data in? And then what does that aggregate come at and where does it come from? There are a lot of ETL, like ingestion tools that kind of accelerate that process. But then we'll do some investigative work to say, okay, this is what we can get. Work with those marketers to say, what is your final aggregate? Do that design collectively with those marketing teams, and then turn that into a package.
Do you have like a lot? You find that those packages are reusable?
Yeah, so that's based on the fact that we work specifically with our marketing leads. So somebody owns a channel across all client relationships, and I say, okay, you're the Taboola lead. You tell me what Taboola reporting needs to look like universally. So there's a little bit of an organizational push to do that. If we were letting everyone do whatever they wanted, it could get very chaotic very quickly, and it has been in the past.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. Well, if that's a wrap, we'll adjourn. And if anyone has more questions, feel free to find either Brandon and I here or at the Hightouch booth afterwards.
Thank you, everybody.